I know these roads. I know every twist, every turn, every up and down. I've gone through them many, many times over many years. Some of my best memories have been going through and around these roads. But now, I want to experience these roads with a fresh new thing. I don't want to change these roads. I don't want to go to a different road. I just want to experience these roads in a new way. If I was to ask you, what version of Dungeons & Dragons do you currently play? What would your answer be? Now, some of you might say 4th edition or even 3.5 or even later, but a vast majority of you are playing 5th. But have you ever stopped to consider, why are you playing 5th edition? Well, because it's the most recent version, you'd say. And yes, that definitely helps. The books are the most readily available on store shelves, and sometimes you can find the old versions, but mostly you're gonna find the newest ones. And while yes, the books are great to have, you don't need them to play the current edition. You can find the free PDF for the Standard Player's Handbook online. I can't tell you where, but you can find it. You can also access the basic rules completely for free online without any possible problems. So if books aren't the answer, then what is? Well, before you write yours in the comments, I want to give you mine. I believe the vast majority of people are playing 5th edition currently because of 2 reasons. One, it is the easiest version to play out of all previous editions. And 2, because it's the easiest version to play, it is the most homebrewable of them all. Think about it. How many of you are currently playing a version of 5th edition that has some kind of homebrew? And it can be homebrew from either side. Your dungeon master could be the one doing homebrew with homebrew rules or homebrew monsters or even homebrew campaign settings. And you yourself could also be playing something homebrew for your character. Maybe it's a homebrew race, maybe even a homebrew class, or it's something as simple as homebrew magic items. It is thanks in no small part to 5th edition's very easy to learn and easy to play system that makes homebrew just as easy to do. And to further follow this train down the tracks, why do you think third-party publishers are so prominent within 5th edition right now? Because it is very easy to write 5th edition content. The rules system in place for 5th edition is very easy to learn and is very easy to craft around. And that makes crafting such a joy. I love running pre-written campaigns, don't get me wrong. I've run several of them for my friends over the numerous years we've been playing D&D, but nothing is more fun for me than putting the books away and opening my own blank sheet of paper and thinking about magic items and different types of characters and classes that I can create myself within the rules of the game. And I've looked at other games, I've ran other games, and I've thought about making my own versions of items and characters and classes for those other game systems. But they're not as easy, and they're a lot more fun for 5th edition D&D. And not only is it fun to do these things, both as a DM and I'm sure as a player as well, but it also keeps the same game that you're familiar with from getting stale and boring. It keeps things fresh and it keeps things interesting. A large majority of the time when we are sitting at the table and we're about to run an encounter, a lot of my players have been through many of my encounters before, and they still get surprised when I pull something new. They know what the AC is to hit a goblin, they know how many hit points a kobold has, and they know very easily how to track down owlbears. But if I was to ask any of you, players and DMs alike, do you know what the AC is for Zugtamoy? Do you know what damage resistances Zugtamoy has? Or even how many feet a turn Zugtamoy can move? I'm guessing a lot of you would say no, because this is a creature I've completely made up. And just like that, combat's interesting again. You don't know what the AC is, you don't know what the movement is, you have no idea what the hit points are, and you don't know what it's gonna do in combat. And now we've made the same game system that we've all been playing for the last decade fresh and interesting again. All it takes is mixing up a little bit here and there, and still within the rules of the game system, but just enough of a change keeps things fresh and interesting. And that is how 5th edition has been so well received and why we are all still loving playing it for 10 years now. But you know what's even better than that? You don't need to make up new things to enjoy 5th edition. You don't need to craft new magic items or make up new monsters because there's so much material out there for you to experience, and I guarantee you have not read them all. And even if you have read every single official bit of 5th material out there, there are still so much more third-party material made for 5th edition that I'm certain you will find something to keep your games fresh and interesting. How do I know? Because Zugtamatoy is not a made-up monster. It's from Mordekainen's Tomb of Foes. It's the Demon Lord of Fungi. If you thought I made up that monster, you haven't read enough 5th edition material. There's still something more for you to experience. So if there's so much 5th edition content already, why do we need a revised version at all? And that's a fair question that a lot of people have been asking. Like mentioned, we've been playing 5th edition for over a decade now, and over that decade we've experienced every nook and cranny that original 5th edition rules have to offer. Because not only have we learned the strength of 5th edition, but we've also very much become accustomed with its flaws. Certain classes in 5th edition are far and away better than other classes. Ranger, through its multiple different iterations, has always been one of the weakest classes in 5th edition. And even with its new revised Ranger currently, it's still one of the least picked and one of the weakest overall. Whereas classes like Paladin and Fighter have always been some of the most picked classes because they offer the most utility and just overall fun and damage. And over time, certain spells have been known to be very, very weak and unusable. And other spells become completely overpowered the moment players get their hands on them. There has always been room to grow in 5th edition. There's always been room to change things in 5th edition and adapt and overcome things in 5th edition. Like I mentioned, it's the most easily customizable edition of Dungeons & Dragons we've ever had. So a lot of the issues that DMs and players alike will have with the edition, they can very easily retcon and fix in their own way, or outright ban in some cases. But from the company's standpoint, Wizards of the Coast does not want to be making product that people are not going to be playing. They don't want to release classes that people don't find enjoyable because they end up being weak or uninteresting overall. They don't want to be super proud of all their original classes that then become outshined 10 years later for something completely different. Or the only way people will ever play those classes is with certain subclasses that have only come out in the last couple of years. WotC doesn't want to make a bad product, but with 5th edition being so beloved as it is, they can't just get rid of 5th edition and start a whole new edition, especially considering we've had 10 years of this version and 10 years worth of books. They're not going to get rid of all of that. Why would they? A lot of the material in a lot of those books is actually really, really good. Some of the books maybe haven't been so well beloved, but a lot of them really are. So WotC, of course, sees a void. How do we make a new version of D&D without completely getting rid of 10 years worth of lore and books and storytelling? How do we make this still an enjoyable version that people will purchase and we can still stay afloat as a company that also doesn't get rid of everything we've done up to this point? And that version is what we're getting. Revised 5th edition, a new version of what we already love and enjoy that is still backwards compatible with everything we've played before. It's the same roads, it's the same area, it's the same twists and turns and highs and lows, just experienced in a different vehicle. A lot of people get comfortable with what they like and they don't want to change from it. And that's a completely understandable thing. I'm very similar in that way. If I like something, why would I change it? But an aspect about this a lot of people fail to see is that not everything is changing. You're not going from playing Dungeons & Dragons to Call of Cthulhu. You're still going to be playing Dungeons & Dragons. And if you don't want to change, you don't have to. D&D is not a video game. You don't need to update to the newest version in order to keep playing your current file. If the new books come out in September and you read through them and you decide it's not for you, that's completely fine. But likewise, if you're someone who's itching for a change, but you don't want to switch to a different game, you still want to keep playing D&D, then Revised 5th might be exactly what you're looking for. Because sometimes you don't need to make a drastic change to continue enjoying the thing that you love. If you like the roads that you drive on, you don't need to change for them if you don't want to. But it might be worthwhile to try driving those roads in a different vehicle. I've experienced these roads many times. I've done them alone, I've done them with friends. I've been here during the day, and I've been here very late at night. And while I do love these roads, I was getting a little tired of doing them in the same vehicle all the time. And I didn't know how to freshen it up. But now, I get to experience these roads all over again in a new, fresh, exciting way. A new edition of Dungeons & Dragons is on the horizon, and you don't have to play it if you don't want to. But it might be nice to try something fresh and new while also still being familiar to you.